All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So welcome to my, well, sort of weekly weekly live stream. Unfortunately, the last couple of weeks I had something come up each day where I couldn't quite make it back home in time to do the live stream. So anyway, here I am. And today, I think I'm just going to focus on doing some collage in this little book that I've been working in. So if you're tuning in and you want to say hi, in the comments. I see Deirdre's already done that, so hi. Anybody else out there that's tuning in, if you want to say hi in the comments, always great to see who's out there. And if you want to let us know where you're tuning in from too, that's always great, but you don't have to. So just to kind of, it's been a while, so just to kind of recap, I've been working in a kind of small pamphlet stitched book that I made several weeks ago, or more than several weeks ago now, but uh, I've been really just kind of playing around in it, trying something pretty new and different for me. So yeah, I don't really have any idea where it's going. I've been trying lots of different things that I haven't really done too much of before, and just really kind of seeing it as a place to experiment, to play, to push myself. So anyway, let me go ahead and switch it over, and I'll talk about what I'm going to do today. So I've got my little book, got my glue pad here, and then I just pulled out just a whole bunch of collage materials, a lot of magazine images, but then also a few of my own photographs. And then I also pulled out some tracing paper. And then this is tracing paper too that I used a gold metallic acrylic paint on. And so I think I'm just going to kind of play around with all of this stuff and kind of see what happens. So as I was looking through this, I've been building up all these layers and really have no clue, no plan, no map of how things are going to evolve in here. I have said, and I still plan on using acrylic paint at some point. I mean, I did use the red is actually acrylic paint in the form of a paint pen, but I really, yeah, I want to use acrylic in it and try some different things with that. So I worked about halfway through, and then the rest of it is blank. So at some point, I'll probably try to catch up the back. Now that I look back at it, I probably should have just kind of carried on and done everything to the back. So we'll see. We'll see kind of how that plays out. But I want to have some images, and I wanted to try to work in ways, like I said, that I haven't done so much. So I've got just a wide variety, National Geographic and Vogue and all kind of other things here to kind of use. So it's going to be like a real mishmash of things. But yeah, I'm just kind of just want to kind of play around. So I think I'm going to just end up doing a lot of gluing. But I just love some of this, like these random things from like National Geographic and whatnot. This little boy here is cracking me up, but I definitely think I need to use him. So I have the thing about this book, like I said, I don't really have much of an idea of where I'm going with it, but I think that's part of the fun, that idea of discovery. Now, when I cut that seems just way too big, so I think I need to trim that down. And that could be a little bit scary for folks that, oh, what, yeah, I don't have an idea of where I'm going. I need to have a plan. And but to me, that's part of the fun. And so I think a lot of this is going to kind of develop as I go. Okay, so yeah, it's a little bit better. One thing to kind of pay attention to sometimes is like where lines are and where things line up. And so if I look, there's like a tree in the back here. So I might like purposefully line it up with that like black line that comes over, and then it comes around, kind of connects to the arm. There's another line here. So like, maybe things kind of line up. That's just something to kind of think about instead of it always just being pretty random. But yeah, let's go ahead and put this down. So I got my handy dandy Uhu stick, Many of you will know that this is like my favorite glue stick. Excuse me. So just a lot of random things that I selected. So like even this came out of National Geographic, all these insects is definitely kind of interesting. But my thought is just to kind of use these images, just to kind of scatter them throughout. And see what starts to happen. I mentioned that idea of randomness, that a lot of times, at least for me, that meaning and message and story start to kind of come out as things go down, as they are put into the book, glued into the book. The color starts to relate, starts to convey meaning as things build up in it. And it's just a way that I work. And I think it really comes from working in the big journals, working in my everyday journal, because that's more of a document of where I've been and what I'm doing. And so a lot of times the meaning is built in those as I go throughout. So, but just like these random juxtapositions, like if I had this over here, it's like this connected with this moth, or I guess it's a moth. Just kind of, it creates something that there's no logic behind it, but yet because they're stuck together, there's something starts to happen. Not exactly sure what that thing is or what the meaning is. And one of the things I've been thinking about with the acrylic, acrylic, especially certain colors, are very opaque. So playing around with like things that get covered up or get hidden. So some of these images are going to be like covered up or hidden eventually. So there might be some interesting things that happen. I love images like this. This is from a bigger spread, so it's underwater, and there might have been like some kind of animal in there, but just love sort of the mysterious nature of it. You could tell that it's natural, but then when we zoom in on parts of it, it's kind of like, what is that? So I think I'm going to take a little bit of this. So just kind of looking around, and it's really uncertain. Like, here we can see like, oh, that's a moth. Oh, that's a city by the water. Maybe I'll skip the page. I kind of go there. So when we see this, I mean, there's definitely a natural feel to it. I think over here, but it's not certain what it is. Like I said, playing around, experimenting, exploring. I feel like I want another person. So maybe you're part of a person over here. This lady pushing the carts was kind of intriguing me. But now that I look at it, she's facing the wrong direction. If I would have put her over here, I don't want it over here because of that. So she's looking this out of that direction, right? So she's looking over here. Typically what I think about whenever I use people is I want to have more space in front of them than I do behind them. So this way there's a little bit of space in front of her, but there's a huge space behind her. So this might be something, maybe I'll go back to this one. So when I put it there, it feels more natural here because she's looking over here. So her eyes are actually drawing attention to this page. So that's something to think about as you're working with things, working with images, especially people, is that, you know, how are they looking? What is the direction of their gaze, or how are they turned? And then I'm often thinking about the rule of thirds. So if I divided, this is my whole space. If I divide this into thirds, each direction, and I'm going to plop her down. Again, kind of thinking about the thirds. It's not exactly the third, but so it just gives just a lot more space there. This feels more natural. Okay. Yeah, just checking, making sure that things are still running. Looks like it. Okay. All right, so I still want a person here. Let's see, maybe I wonder if I have anything in color. All right, so here we go. So we got this lady's facing that direction. Might be kind of interesting. Because the book is small, I'm really trying to keep these images relatively small. And I like that idea of being able to trim it down and really create something. So again, she's facing this direction. So I want to have more space. And even in the little rectangle, I have more space in front of her than I do behind her. She's also kind of looking up. So then all of a sudden, you know, here's where I start to think about like that meaning that comes in. So we have a window and it's, you know, it's sunny outside, and then she's very brightly lit. So even though there's not, you know, she's not in sunlight and there's not like a bright streaming sunlight, like sunbeam coming in, we start to get that kind of feeling that like, okay, she's looking up, she's basking in the sun, you know, so there's this connection there. That's the interesting thing is when we start playing around with these juxtapositions. And so they start to suggest some ideas or themes or concepts that we can then maybe play around with. So if I wanted to start thinking about the words or thinking about what is this about, you know, it starts to suggest that. Okay, so getting close to the middle, I think I'm gonna go ahead and pull out. Let's go ahead and do one of my images. So these are printed on a laser printer. So I'll be okay to paint over them. They're not going to bleed or blend. If I had printed them on an inkjet printer, which that's what most of us have, then the ink would bleed, it would run. All right. So I think I don't want to go too overboard with images yet. Maybe I'll add some more later, and I'll definitely add more in the back. But I want to clean up. Let me get rid of some of these magazine images and such, because what I'm thinking of is the idea of covering up or hiding certain aspects. Like I said, with the acrylics, I can definitely do that. But I have something here. I'm not going to use acrylics today. I think that's something I want to wait and just use all, you know, acrylics for an entire session. But I have the tracing paper. And so that's something I want to play around with. And like I said, this is gold, very shiny. I used golden high flow acrylics and just put the gold. It's a iridescent gold. It's very translucent. And kind of interesting to see it from the back. And you know, it's translucent, and it's actually going to get more translucent when I glue it in. Same thing with the regular tracing paper. So like right now, the tracing paper is very noticeable. But what I can do is I can start to use it and glue it in. When you use the glue, it's really interesting. It becomes almost transparent. Let's go ahead and rip up some of these pieces. So, yeah, if I glue this in right here, you know, right now I can really see it. It stands out pretty well. But let me go ahead and put glue on it. Now, when I put glue on tracing paper, it does want to roll up. The smaller the paper, the easier it is to kind of control it. But it still wants to roll up. See how it's curled up. So this part always gets really messy. But there's something about using the glue stick. I think it because it just really bonds it to the surface. And you can see how it's not quite as, I mean, you can still see it. You can see how it kind of made this a little bit cloudy in here. Maybe I'll hold it up to the camera a little bit better. So, I mean, you could still see it, but it's not as translucent as it was. So it adds a little bit of this like cloudiness to it that I find kind of interesting. And then overlapping the pieces will start to build up some of that opacity. So let's go ahead and glue this one in. Right, that didn't quite seem like it glued down well. So you can really see where the two pieces overlap. And then on top of the brown paper, it seems to really kind of pop out. So it just starts to create a little bit of texture where things overlap and where the rips are. Also, that translucent quality kind of helps break up the space a little bit. I don't want to do too much of that, and probably just maybe do that. Find like a space maybe to do that here and there. And I'm thinking about whether I really want to use that gold painted tracing paper. I don't know if that's going to be too much right now. Might be something I want to think about using later. And I pulled it out just in case because it's just a different thing, different color. I have found that there are sometimes you can find different colors of tracing paper. I've found some that's in a roll that's kind of a more of a cream color. Might have some around here somewhere, not inside here, but maybe out in my garage studio. So having it overlap the image here helps push that image down a little bit into the surface. And it's not just floating on top. This one right here does kind of float on top, but I'm not too worried about that. I don't want to put tracing paper on everything, but here, this seems like maybe be a good place to put a big piece. I don't want it to go all the way over to her. As the tracing paper rolls up, I always find that it's sometimes a little difficult to put it exactly where you want it to go. And then it rolled up, I got a lot of glue on top. So if I just kind of rub it, I can get off some of that glue. So yeah, you can see it. You can kind of see that there, but it's not super like prominent, which again is kind of interesting. Just kind of creates a little bit of a haze. That one might be interesting right there in the center. Okay, so that wrinkled a little bit as I put it down, but that's all right. Like I said, I think I'm gonna use acrylic. Probably what I'll do with the acrylic is I'm not going to use gesso. I could use gesso if I was doing it on blank paper. Gesso would cover up. Some gesso is very opaque, but it would cover up a lot, probably more than I really would want it to. So I might just use a clear matte medium to paint over, and then that way everything would be sealed. Um, yeah, so like the matte medium would seal it, and then that way I could paint over it. And I could paint directly on the paper, but sometimes the paper reacts to the paint, really kind of sucks the water out. Whereas if it's sealed, then the paint can kind of slide around a little bit more. I don't think I want that covered up too much. Yeah, it's there all rolled up. Okay. I think I'm going to stop there with the tracing paper. Like I said, I don't want to do too much right now. The thing is, if I want to do more later, it'll work with acrylic as well. But I think what I want to do now is to go back and trim off some of these. Yeah. Go and trim this off. And just notice that I glued. No, sorry, I was thinking wrong. I was thinking I had glued something, but no. I was looking at the little rounded corner, and it's from that, there's a piece of paper that I glued on that had a rounded corner. It's throwing me off there a little bit. Somebody must be here. I don't think it's my wife. I think it might be a delivery, or my dogs are just barking because they want to bark. Sometimes there's absolutely no one out there and they decide that something has to be. Oh, it is my wife. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and just trying to trim this off. What I find is, like, if I can hold the scissors with, like, this is the blade, if it can go kind of underneath and trim it really close to the edge. Okay. All right. So kind of taking a look. I think I didn't hold it up a little bit higher, but yeah, just kind of taking a look. Yeah, I'm liking how it's working so far. Like I said, the images start to create a story. They start to create some meaning that I didn't intend. Yeah, just kind of this one's still kind of really interesting to me with the woman in the window. But anyway, so yeah, I think that's a kind of a good place to stop for today. I think go ahead and switch this back over. All right, so definitely appreciate you tuning in, whether you're tuning in live or you are tuning in for the recording of it, or on Facebook or on YouTube. If you have any questions, please put, pop them into the comments. I do try to answer questions. Sometimes it takes me a couple of days or even a week or longer to get back to them. But if you have any questions or comments or even suggestions, maybe there's something that you might want to suggest for me, some technique, an idea, feel free to pop those into the comments. And remember, if you like this, and let other people know about it. So that's one way to really kind of help me out, is to help spread the word, let people know about this. And anyway, just appreciate y'all being here, and thank you so much for tuning in, and should be back here next week. So hope I'll see you then. Thank you so much, and happy creating.